Glad you used the word sacred trust, because that's exactly what it is. The FBI is the most powerful law enforcement body in this nation. And to have this body corrupted politically such that it is targeting people of faith in this country and then lying about it to this committee and the American people is unimaginable. I'll be honest with you, I never thought this would happen in the United States of America. I just didn't. If you had told me 5 years ago we'd be reading memos like this, I would have said, no way, that's bad fiction. In fact, it's a horrible reality. Trump has recently pardoned some of these folks, but it also includes individuals like Mark Houck from Philadelphia region, from Pennsylvania, who had an FBI SWAT team arrive at his door in the early hours of the morning, armed, of course, terrorizing him and his children, took him into custody. They charged him with a FACE Act violation. Why? Because he took his young son to a peaceful demonstration outside an abortion clinic. When his young son was shoved to the ground, he defended him. Mark Houck was acquitted by a jury, acquitted. Nevertheless, the FBI used their full resources, including a SWAT team, to try and terrorize him. Meanwhile, how many churches that were firebombed or pregnancy care centers that were firebombed, how many of them were protected by the last administration? Just about zero.
Senator, if confirmed, and it speaks to an issue we were talking about earlier, there will be no such targeting if I'm confirmed as FBI director. And the resources of the FBI, which are funded by the American taxpayer dollars, in the 7 minutes that you and I have been talking about, 2 people have died from fentanyl overdoses, 1 person has been shot to death in this country, and 3 people have been raped. The resources of the FBI will go to that mission set and that mission set alone, because America deserves a better brand of justice, and I'm going to give it to
This confirmation hearing clip is getting almost no coverage, and it should be getting all of it, because what's being documented here is a 4-part pattern of FBI conduct under the previous administration that, if the evidence is accurate, represents the most systematic targeting of American citizens based on religious belief and political opinion in modern FBI history. Part 1. The FBI generated classified memos listing Catholic parishes as potentially suspect and directed the recruitment of informants inside those churches. When confronted, the previous director lied about it repeatedly until whistleblowers proved otherwise. Part 2. The FBI opened cases against parents who attended school board meetings to ask about curriculum and COVID masking policies. The Attorney General directed it. Whistleblowers documented it. Part 3. The FBI deployed a SWAT team to arrest a father who defended his son at a peaceful pro-life demonstration. He was acquitted by a jury. 0 churches firebombed by the other side received the same level of investigative attention. Part 4. The FBI pressured the largest social media companies in the world to censor the political speech of American citizens on everything from the Hunter Biden laptop to coded policy. As a journalist covering federal law enforcement for 7 years, each of these individually would be a major story. Together, they describe an institution that used its power systematically against one side of the American political and religious spectrum. And the senator is extracting specific, on-the-record commitments from the incoming director about whether that stops. Let's go through it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, welcome. It's great to see you again. I enjoyed our conversation in my office a while back. Let me ask you this. Is it appropriate for the Federal Bureau of Investigation to attempt to recruit spies or informants into religious institutions in this country, particularly Catholic parishes? Is that appropriate?
I don't believe so, Senator.
Mr. Patel, are you familiar with the recent actions of the FBI in this regard, including this memo that I have right here, making a list of Catholic churches and parishes that they regard as potentially suspect and directing the potential recruitment of informants and other spies, let's be honest, into those parishes?
I'm familiar with that memo, Senator.
Mr. Patel, would you commit to me that you will, if you are confirmed, that you will finally and officially withdraw this memo and make it clear that this is not only unacceptable, but that it is an absolute violation of the First Amendment that every American enjoys under the Constitution of the United States?
If I'm confirmed, Senator, yes.
Will you also commit to me that you will conduct an investigation and find out who wrote this memo, who spread this memo, the field offices involved in this memo? Because I can tell you, we've had your predecessor sit right where you're sitting, and he has repeatedly lied to, there's no other word for it, lied to this committee. He told us initially that it didn't happen, that the FBI didn't make any lists of churches. That's not true. We have it. A whistleblower brought forward the list for us. He said then that only one field office had worked on it. Turns out we know from another whistleblower, multiple field offices worked on it. He said that it was never posted on the internal system. It turns out it was. We believe it's still in effect. Will you find out who was involved in this gross abuse of Americans' First Amendment rights? And will you discipline them? And if you possibly can, will you fire them, Mr. Patel, consistent with department policy and law?
Senator, you have my commitment to investigate any matters such as this one that are important to Congress. I will fully utilize, if confirmed, the investigative powers of the FBI to give you the information you require and also to hold those accountable who violated the sacred trust placed in them at the FBI.
I'm glad to hear you say that, and I'm glad you use the word sacred trust, because that's exactly what it is. The FBI is the most powerful law enforcement body in this nation, arguably the most powerful law enforcement body, at least in a free nation in the world. And to have this body corrupted politically such that it is targeting people of faith in this country and then lying about it to this committee and the American people is unimaginable. I'll be honest with you, I never thought this would happen in the United States of America. I just didn't. If you had told me 5 years ago we'd be reading memos like this, I would have said, no way, that's bad fiction. In fact, it's a horrible reality. The department needs to be cleaned up, the agency does, and rights restored and protected. I'm glad to hear you say that.
The senator opens by asking a question that should have a simple answer. Is it appropriate for the FBI to recruit informants inside Catholic churches? Patel says no. Then he holds up the memo, a list of Catholic parishes the FBI flagged as potentially suspect, instructions for recruiting informants and spies inside those parishes. He asked Patel to commit, if confirmed, to formally withdrawing it, declaring it a First Amendment violation, and investigating everyone involved. Then comes the documented history of how this memo became public, and it is a history of institutional lying. The previous director told Congress it didn't happen. A whistleblower proved it did. He said only one field office was involved. A second whistleblower proved multiple field offices contributed. He said it was never posted on the internal system. It was, and there is reason to believe it may still be in effect. 3 separate false statements to Congress, each one corrected by a whistleblower, and not a single person has been held accountable for any of it. Patel commits to investigate, hold accountable, and if possible, fire those involved. Whether that commitment survives the institutional pressures of actually running the FBI is the question that only time will answer.
Do you think it is appropriate for the FBI to be sending agents, including counterterrorism agents, to the parents of children who went to school board meetings and asked about critical race theory in their schools, asked about the school's masking policy during COVID? Should those parents be treated as domestic terrorists?
Parents who have the courage to ensure their children are taught what they feel is right, and those who have the courage of their convictions to go houses of worship, in my book, will never be domestic terrorists.
I'm delighted to hear you say that. You're familiar, I am sure, with this memorandum issued by the Attorney General, the last Attorney General, Merrick Garland, directing the FBI and other law enforcement agencies to look into parents who went to these school board meetings. And we know from whistleblowers who've come forward to this committee and given us the evidence that, in fact, the FBI opened multiple cases against multiple parents across the nation, I believe, including in my home state of Missouri. Another gross abuse, incredible political power brought to bear against everyday citizens. Why? Because they went to a school board meeting that they're paying for and asked about what their kids were being taught. Once again, I can't imagine, I couldn't have ever thought this would happen in the United States of America. Will you find out who was involved in this policy within the FBI, who agreed with it, who implemented it, who encouraged it? Will you find out that, Mr. Patel? Will you do an internal investigation? And will you make clear that those who supported this policy are appropriately disciplined? And will you make clear that the FBI will never do something like this again?
If confirmed and pursuant to your congressional request, absolutely, Senator.
The senator pivots to something that affected ordinary American families in a way the Catholic parish memo did not, because it happened in their own communities, at their own school board meetings. Parents who went to public meetings to ask about critical race theory and COVID masking policies were referred to federal law enforcement as potential domestic terrorist threats. Attorney General Garland issued the directive. The FBI opened cases. Multiple parents across multiple states, including Missouri, found themselves subjects of federal investigations for exercising their most basic constitutional rights. Patel's position is stated plainly. People who go to houses of worship and parents who have the courage to ensure their children are properly educated will never be domestic terrorists under his leadership. The senator's observation is the one that should follow every political debate about federal law enforcement. I never thought this would happen in the United States of America. The fact that it did, and that it required whistleblowers to expose it, is the institutional failure that this entire hearing is trying to address.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it's appropriate for the FBI to target people of faith, particularly those who hold pro-life convictions? Do you think it's appropriate for the FBI to single out and target people of faith in order to discourage the exercise of their First Amendment rights?
There can never be a targeting by law enforcement just based on their people's faiths.
And yet, under this last administration, the FBI and DOJ together brought numerous prosecutions under the FACE Act for nonviolent protests. President Trump has recently pardoned some of these folks, but it also includes individuals like Mark Houck from Philadelphia region, from Pennsylvania, who had an FBI SWAT team arrive at his door in the early hours of the morning, armed, of course, terrorizing him and his children, took him into custody. They charged him with a FACE Act violation. Why? Because he took his young son to a peaceful demonstration outside an abortion clinic. When his young son was shoved to the ground, he defended him. Mark Houck was acquitted by a jury, acquitted. Nevertheless, the FBI used their full resources, including a SWAT team, to try and terrorize him. Meanwhile, how many churches that were firebombed or pregnancy care centers that were firebombed, how many of them were protected by the last administration? Just about zero. It is an unbelievable instance of targeting. Mr. Patel, will you end this targeting? If you get to the FBI, if you are confirmed, will you end it? And will you make clear to all agency personnel that there can be no targeting on the basis of religious belief, and this will never happen again in the United States of America, at least not under your watch?
Senator, if confirmed, and it speaks to an issue we were talking about earlier, there will be no such targeting if I'm confirmed as FBI director. And the resources of the FBI, which are funded by the American taxpayer dollars, in the 7 minutes that you and I have been talking about, 2 people have died from fentanyl overdoses, 1 person has been shot to death in this country, and 3 people have been raped. The resources of the FBI will go to that mission set and that mission set alone, because America deserves a better brand of justice, and I'm going to give it to
The Mark Houck case is the most specific and documentable example in this hearing of what the senator is describing, and it needs to be understood fully. Houck took his young son to a peaceful pro-life demonstration outside an abortion clinic. His son was shoved to the ground. He defended him. The FBI determined this constituted a FACE Act violation, a federal law designed to protect access to abortion facilities, and sent a SWAT team to his home in the early morning hours. Armed agents, his children present. He was taken into custody. He was charged. He was prosecuted with the full resources of the FBI. A jury acquitted him. The senator then asks the question that exposes the selective nature of this enforcement. How many churches and pregnancy care centers that were actually firebombed during the same period received the same level of FBI investigative attention? The answer, essentially 0. A father who defended his son got a SWAT team. Organizations that firebombed pregnancy centers got minimal federal response. That disparity is not a policy disagreement. It is documented, systematic, selective enforcement based on which side of a political issue the target was on. And Patel commits on the record that it ends under his watch.
Do you think it's appropriate for the FBI to try and pressure the largest technology corporations in the world, the most powerful corporations in the world, the social media companies? Do you think it's appropriate for the FBI to pressure them to censor the political speech of everyday American citizens to try and violate the First Amendment? Is that appropriate, do you think, Mr. Patel?
No, Senator.
Will you put an end to this, Mr. Patel, if you are confirmed at the FBI?
Senator, if confirmed, I will work with Congress to expose any corrupt activities the FBI has participated in, especially involved in the censorship of free speech.
Because we know from the court cases that have been brought across this country, and we know from the voluminous factual finding that was done, and it's in the record, that the FBI and other agencies of this government under the last administration pressured, coerced these social media companies to censor speech of everyday Americans on a range of issues, from the Hunter Biden laptop to COVID, to the Dobbs decision, you name it, they tried to censor them. The Constitution doesn't permit the government to do it. The FBI tried to get the social media companies to do it. Will you end this practice, Mr. Patel, once and for all?
Senator, I will always follow the law.
The senator closes with the issue that connects everything discussed in this hearing, Because the same institutional power that recruited informants in churches, investigated school board parents, and deployed SWAT teams against pro-life demonstrators was also being used to pressure the most powerful media companies in the world to silence American citizens. The evidence is in court records and documentary findings. The FBI and other federal agencies under the previous administration pressured and coerced social media companies to censor specific content, the Hunter Biden laptop story, COVID policy dissent, and more. The First Amendment prohibits the government from censoring speech directly. The FBI found a workaround: pressure the private companies to do it instead. Patel says he will work with Congress to expose any corrupt activities the FBI participated in related to free speech censorship. He will always follow the law. My read as a journalist: 4 commitments made under oath in his confirmation hearing: investigate the Catholic Parish memo, end school board parent targeting, stop pro-life faith-based targeting, and end social media censorship pressure. Those 4 commitments are now in the congressional record. Every one of them can be verified. Every failure to keep them can be documented. And the whistleblowers who exposed the original conduct are still out there, watching to see if the new director means what he said, or if the institution simply finds new targets while leaving the old mechanisms in place.
Well, number one, it'll look like a change, Jesse, because what we've gotten for the last 4 years is nothing but stonewalling. It's nothing but lies, frankly, from the FBI director when he's come before Congress. And the world deserves to know, the American people deserve to know exactly what the FBI's role was in January 6th. They also deserve to know what the FBI has been doing with its time. While they've been pursuing January 6 defendants, they haven't been putting drug kingpins behind bars. They haven't been going after child traffickers. They haven't been going after the drug cartels. It's time to get the FBI focused, Jesse, on, criminals again, and actually putting violent criminals behind bars. I think Kash will do that.
The Democrats look terrified, not really equipped to handle a guy like Kash. Are we going to learn things about Butler? Are we going to learn things about the Palm Beach attempt? What else are we going to find out here?
4 commitments, 1 hearing, the Catholic Parish memo withdrawn and investigated, school board parents never treated as domestic terrorists again, pro-life demonstrators never subjected to SWAT raids for defending their children, social media censorship pressure ended. Patel said yes to all 4, under oath, on the record. The whistleblowers who exposed the original conduct are the ones who will tell us whether those commitments hold, and we will be watching.